Hi everyone, this is Studio Slave with ADSR, and in this video we're going to be taking a first look at Native Instruments' new flagship keyboard controller, the Komplete Kontrol MK2. This is being launched at the same time as the Machine Mark III, and as you can probably tell, it's quite a serious upgrade from the original Komplete Kontrol keyboard. So Native Instruments have really spent a lot of time trying to streamline the three focal points of the creative process, which are browsing for presets, then manipulating these presets to make them unique and make them our own, and then finally the workflow, which is helping us to get our creative ideas down as quickly and efficiently as possible without anything getting in the way. So as you can imagine, there's a whole host of new features packed into this keyboard. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off by going through a general layout of the hardware, and then once I've done that, I'm then going to go into the browser. Then I'm going to show you how we can make all of the sounds our own using Native Map as well, so that's going to work for a lot of other third-party plugins. And then once we've done that, we're going to take a closer look at the workflow and how it integrates with the DAW. So we've got lots of control over the performance, the editing, and even the mixing of our tracks within the DAW. So now we're going to jump straight in with the general layout of the hardware. So as you can see, we've now got these two high-res color screens, which makes it nice and easy for any browsing, tweaking and mixing without having to look at the computer. And these are also the same screens that are used by the Machine Mark III. The finish on this is now matte black instead of shiny, and we no longer need the power cable. However, if I plug this in, you should be able to see the screens and the lights get a little bit brighter. So this can be really useful for when we're performing in a club with low lighting, but if you don't want to use the power cable, then this works fine with a 2.0 USB. We've also got 8 rotary touchscreen encoders, as well as some buttons across the top LCD display. And if we look above the 4-way encoder, we've also got some different modes, such as mix, MIDI, plugin and browser. And if we move across, we've also got dedicated mute and solo buttons when we're in mix mode, and we've also got some buttons so we can control machine from the Komplete Kontrol, as well as our preset and our page scroll buttons. We also have our smart play features, which is scale, chord and arp, and then we have some edit controls such as shift, undo, redo, quantize and enable automation. We've now also got the capability to loop, turn on the metronome and tap the tempo, as well as some standard transport controls such as play, restart, record and stop. We then have our light guide, as well as the touch strip if we want to get a little bit of extra expression, and as well as that we also have a dedicated pitch bend wheel and modulation wheel as well. And we've also got our octave up and down buttons, and if we use the shift function we can use these to access the semitone up and down buttons. And as well as that we've also got the fixed velocity button, and as you can guess, this just fixes the velocity if we want to put in something like a kick drum. So now that we've got the general layout out the way, what we're going to do is we're going to dive into the project and have a look at the browse features. So as you can see here, I've got a Komplete Kontrol instance on each individual track, and I've used this to build up the project. So I'm just navigating through the different tracks and instances here, and as you can imagine, you can get an idea down very quick. So with this track, if we press browse, then what we get is we get a hierarchy across the bottom, and we can control this using the large rotary controller, and we get LED feedback, and we can change between the different instances. Or in this case, what we can do is we're going to use these rotary controls across the bottom so we can filter these different sounds. So we really have a lot of control on these filters, so we could search for all of our products, or we could be more specific and go for sampled instruments, drums and percussion, or synths, or we could even go into sub-instruments or modes and characteristics as well. So in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to all products within the Komplete Kontrol libraries, and I'm going to search within all of these different instruments and products for a kick drum. So I'll go to types, I'm just going to turn that to drums, and then I'm going to switch this to kick drum. So this is now going to show us every single kick sample that we have within our Komplete library, including any third-party NKS plugin samples such as Output, Arturia or Heaviosity as well. So my favourite feature is the ability to be able to audition or pre-hear sounds without actually having to load them. So I'll just show you this now. We've got pre-hear on, and we can just audition and choose without having to load them, and that also works for NKS factory sounds as well. So it saves us a lot of time trying to find a sample, and it's really helpful when we've got these bigger sample libraries that take a little bit of time to load. So just to show you this again, we'll go for sampled instruments, and I'm just going to show you these filters again. We're going to find brass sounds only, so we're going to go for brass instruments, and then we can just flick through and listen to all of these different brass instruments without having to load them. So this really is a massive time saver, and it keeps you on track with your creative processes. And we can also turn off this audition if we're in a live environment and we don't want to hear the sound. If I like one of these presets, what I can do is I can press the set favorite button, and it puts a little star next to it. So now if we press the favorite button on the left, this is going to show me all the favorites for this given filter. So this is the favorites within the brass instruments. So if I turn this filter off, it's going to show me all of the favorites from within the complete library. So I'm going to turn off my favorites, and now I'm going to go into the user library, and here you can see all of my user presets for my different instruments. So here we can see we've got massive and monarch, and if I just select monarch, then we can see we've just got my user presets for monarch. And what we can also do is we can go back to all, and we can set this for favorites as well. So now it's only going to show me my user favorites, and we can even filter that per instrument as well. So this allows us to be really precise with the organization and browsing of our custom presets. So now we're going to put some of this into practice in an actual project before moving on to the workflow section. So what I'm going to do is just flick through and try and listen to some different drums. So we've got some battery kits here. So whilst I'm doing this browsing and filtering, I'm doing all of this completely from the Komplete Control using these two high-res screens. So there's absolutely no need to look at the computer screen. So at the moment we're still in battery, so what I'm going to do is just widen the search, so we're just looking in the drums and percussion filter only. So I'll just turn this one off. And then we can go to drums throughout the entire complete library, and we'll go for shakers. And now we're going to have every single shaker within the drums and percussion section of the complete library. So now we can audition these, and once we found one we like, we can load it in either using the button or the encoder. And then we can even go up and down using the preset up and preset down button, and it's just going to select the next preset that's in the list. So now that we've chosen a sample, we're going to look at controlling the sound and Ableton integration. So to navigate the project, we can use the 4-way encoder, pushing it up, down, left and right to jump between the different tracks. And as we do this, the record arm is going to be activated for each track, and also the plugin window is going to update depending on what track we are on. We've also got a lot of control over the clips, so we can scroll through session view and we can either record, stop or launch these. And if we go to the scenes, we can also do that at the scenes as well. So this is our intro. We've also got our break. And then we've got the chorus. And I'll just stop that now. So all of the Native Instruments Komplete and NKS third-party plugins allow us to do a little bit of sound design from the rotary encoders. So what we can do is mess around with it for a bit, change the tuning, and then we can just hit the metronome and record this straight into the project. So now that we've played in a few notes, what I'm going to do is open up clip view so we can have a look at the timing. And as you can see, my timing is a little bit off, so I can press the Quantize button and it's going to quantize all of these notes to the 16th grid. If we decide we don't want the quantize, I can press undo and that's going to take the quantize back off, or I can press shift and undo and that's going to put it back on again, which is the redo button. And if I press it twice, then I can get rid of the recording altogether. So instead of actually playing this in normally, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the Arp function. So I'm going to put the metronome back on, I'm going to go shift and Arp, I'm going to press the Arp on, and now in Arp mode, if I hold down these notes, you can see it's cycling through the 3 notes that I'm holding down. What I can also do is put this into note repeat mode. So now I've just got to hold down one note and it's going to play the rhythm that I select here. So I'll change this to 16th notes and we can add some swing. So we'll go for about 10%. And now I've only got to hold down this note and we're getting this 16th note rhythm with this swing. So this is really handy for drums. So let's record that in now. So now that we've got that in place, I'm going to press Quantize just to get that locked into the beat, and we've still got the swing applied, and I'm just going to play that back and see how it sounds. So let's play this with a few other clips as well, just so we get a better idea of how it sounds in context. So we might want to adjust the volume and panning of the sound, so we can jump into the mixer, and then we can navigate around using the encoder, and we can rename this track. So we'll just do this in Ableton and it updates instantly on the Komplete Controls display. In the mixer mode, we can either turn the channel up or down using the rotary controller, and if we press the shift function while doing this, we can move in smaller increments. If we want to access the channel's pan controls, all we've got to do is press shift and up on the rotary encoder, and then we can pan left and right. And if we want to do this in smaller increments, once again we can use the shift function as well. And then to go back into the standard level or volume mode, we just go shift and down, and then we're back into the volume control. So within the mixer, as well as being able to move around with the rotary encoder, we can also use the mute and solo buttons to mute or solo the individual channels. And if we don't want to move around with this encoder, we can use the channels on the top to jump from track to track. So now that we've got a shaker in place, we'll go to some of our other parts. So here we've got a Violin Ensemble from Session Strings. So with this string, what we can do is we can go shift and scale mode, and this is going to let us edit the scale. So we'll go for something like a D. We can also choose a scale type such as major, minor, pentatonic, blues, jazz, or a mode, or maybe even something that's not got an equal tempered scale. In this case, I'm just going to go for a minor scale. So we've got a few different types of key mode that we can have here. So at the moment it's in easy mode, and this maps the scale of D minor from C up to the next C using only the white notes. You'll have to excuse my playing, which makes this even more relevant than ever, because this is going to make sure that you stay in key if you need to. So now we'll put it into guide mode. So this is going to map out the lights to the D minor scale. But if I push a wrong note, it is going to let me hit that wrong note. So it's a good sort of guidance, as the name suggests. So it's good for learning. But in this case, I'm going to set this to mapped mode, and this is exactly the same, so it's just mapped it across the scale. However, if I push a wrong note, then it's going to push it up into the scale. So if I push this, it's going to go up into an A. So no matter where I press on the keyboard, we're always going to be in key. As well as these scales, we've also got different chord modes here as well. So here we've got harmonizer. So this is an octave above. We've then got a fifth, or a triad, or a minor seventh in this case. And there's loads of other chords. And we also have the inversions as well. So this is the root, and we can push this up, and we can also push it down, or we can set it to auto. So in auto mode, what it's going to do is it's going to figure out the inversion, so it's got the best sort of flow for where we're playing on the keyboard to make our progressions flow into each other. Next thing we have is some predefined chord sets, so we can choose from the drop down list and we can map these across the keys of our keyboard, and this allows us to play some pretty complex chords that are going to work nicely together. And what we can also do is we can choose the different inversions for this as well. So in this case it's in root, but I like to have that in auto mode, and we can see the light guide lighting up showing us the notes played. So for now I'm just going to keep this in harmonizer mode, and I'm just going to play in a simple octave for this violin. So I think we'll go for the note of F, and I think we'll go an octave higher actually. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually launch the break using the scenes, and then we're just going to record this straight in. And although we're only pressing one single note, this is going to record an octave and play back an octave for us. So we'll see how that sounds in context now. And we can turn it down a little bit on the mixer if we need to. And we can see how this is going to lead into the chorus just by launching it from the scenes. So now that we've gone through the smart play, scale up and chord features, what we're going to do is we're going to look at a little bit of bass automation. And just as I flick through these tracks, another thing to bear in mind is that each track knows what smart play functions we use, and it remembers those settings on a per track basis. So if we go over here to our string, we've got the scale engaged, and for the ARP we've got scale and ARP engaged, and it remembers absolutely everything down to the key, the note quantization, and whether we've got it in note repeat or ARP mode. So now we're going to add in some automation to this bass to give it a little bit of tension, which then it can release when we go into the chorus. So as you can see with this clip, we've got 8 bars that we're going to automate, and I'm going to do this separately because I'm not that good at playing, so I'm definitely not going to be able to automate at the same time. So to do that, all I've got to do is hit the automation arm button, and then I can just hit record. So now I'm ready to overdub in my own time, and because this is native mapped to Monarch, if we flick through all the pages, you can see we've got all of the different parameters of Monarch right here ready to go, so we can look for the filter decay and the filter cutoff if we want. But what I've done is I've set up my own page, which is the 9th page at the end here, so it's just to keep my parameters in one place, but you could map the touch strip or anything else instead. All I have to do is just start twisting. I'll start doing that as soon as we get to the next bar. And we can see this overwriting the automation in clip view. So we could either do this one at a time, do them at the same time, or we could do it in separate passes if we wanted to. It doesn't really matter. Just going to carry on overwriting until we turn the record off. So now just press stop. So now we can press record again and add in some more automation, or we could grab another parameter and automate that instead. And then it's just a case of going in and fine-tuning the automation with a mouse and straightening out any harsh edges. So now that we've got the whole arrangement in place, what we're going to do is listen to the whole thing from the top and see how it sounds and check it makes sense. Thanks very much for watching this video, and hopefully you've learned something new about the Komplete Kontrol MK2 keyboard and how you can integrate this into your Ableton setup if you're thinking about getting one. If you haven't already, then click the subscribe button to see more videos from ADSR.